Let's run it back with the Championship Wrestling Rewind.
We are going to rewind back to last week's action and catch all the highlights. Man, was it a good one. And then we're going to talk all about it with a very special guest who's been watching and covering our program since episode number 1. He's seen every episode. It's Prince Watercress from the Prince Watercress Wrestling blog. You can follow him on Twitter at Prince Watercress. He's coming up next, but here's what happened on Saturday. Last week on Championship Wrestling. It was action-packed and unpredictable, featuring the return of Jamie Iovine.
My friend Nico gave me the pen, the stroke, the power to do whatever I want in this building. Anything he can do and execute, I will do and execute. Maybe even better.
And the Heritage Championship was on the line, and history was made.
We've got a new Heritage Champion, but there is controversy.
All that and so much more on the fastest hour in pro wrestling. Watch episode 87 in full on our official YouTube channel at CW30 Wrestling. I promised you a guest, and so today joining us is a guy who has literally recapped every single episode since our premiere back in April of 2019. It's Prince Watercress. What's up, Prince? Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Dustin. How are we?
I'm doing good, man. Now, you are local to the Memphis area, correct?
West Memphis, Arkansas.
Oh, so you're like a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yep, I'm definitely in Sid Vicious country.
I love it. And those that are in the know of Sid Vicious know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, he's basically a Memphis boy. West Memphis is so close to Memphis, they call it West Memphis, right?
Yes, correct.
All right, so first and foremost, before we get into the action of what happened on Saturday, I've got to ask, how did you hear about Championship Wrestling presented by Pro Shingle? Man, you've been recapping since day one, so just give us a little bit of backstory on this and how you found out about us.
So I'm going to give the most boring, yet at the same time, the most interesting explanation for this. I didn't know about the show until minutes before it premiered.
Gosh, that's wild.
Yeah, I know, right? So I have Jerry Lawler's Classic Memphis Wrestling going on in the background because they used to run it on CW3 at the time, at the 10 o'clock hour. And all of a sudden I hear, get ready for Championship Wrestling presented by Pro Shingle. I'm like, what is this? And so only thing I have on is my laptop. I didn't have the desktop on. So here I am loading up blogger.com with the laptop. And I'm like, am I going to get something about wrestling? Will there be wrestling? What is it going to be? And then when I find out it's an actual wrestling show, I was a little interested. And then I found out it was Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which made me even more interested because up until that point, I only knew the name. Okay. I didn't know about any of the talents or anybody who wrestled there. And so once I saw Caleb Perez versus professional Peter Avalon, it was just, let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people that have been catching on and watching the show didn't really realize just how many bona fide superstars have come through Championship Wrestling and the United Wrestling Network, like a Peter Avalon or Brandon Cutler or the Young Bucks or MJF, Luchasaurus. I mean, the Scorpio Sky, the list goes on and on and on. And even here recently, seeing guys like VSK or Max Caster or even Watts, appearing, Vipress this week appearing on AEW. A lot of these talented people on our program are getting big opportunities worldwide.
Even Danny Limelight Rivera has been on there, and he's going to be on there next week, on the next episode of Dark.
Now keep an eye out for Danny Limelight. I would expect him to sign a contract somewhere very, very soon, and we're extremely. Now that's a double-edged sword because number one, we'd kind of have to say goodbye, but then on the other side, man, good job for him.
even on the first episode, there were names that I recognize, albeit a little bit. I mean, you had Heather Monroe, you had Chris Bay, who went on the Impact.
Love Chris Bay.
Chris Bay. Was it Brandon Cutler on the first episode as well?
He was on the first episode. And now that we're mentioning Chris Bay and all these guys on the first episode, let's jump right into episode 87. So you've been with us since episode 1, and now fast forward to episode 87. Gosh, so much stuff has happened. But one of the names kicking off the show this week was a guy that we had seen, basically his clique ran roughshod through Championship Wrestling for a full year. Jamie Iovine is back, and apparently he's with Nico Marquez calling the shots, man. What'd you think of this?
We haven't seen him since the upper class was gone, and he tried to sign, I wouldn't say sign, but he tried to get Ice Williams as a client,
right? And
that backfired. So after that, we never saw him again. And all of a sudden he's here now. Nico has given him power of authority a little bit. And all I can say is that's a heck of a return.
Yeah, now he's basically got the keys to the office is what it looks like. But man, just kicking off the show that way was like, whoa. I mean, talk about the fastest hour in professional wrestling and a big surprise. You know, just when you think the Nico Marquez situation with the women's division can't get any crazier than insert Jamie Iovine here, who also has a history with Killer Bay Heather Monroe, who's fighting for that women's championship, you know, having that title made.
I have the feeling that will complicate matters further.
Stating the obvious, I hear. Well, we had several really good matches. Will Allday over Snipes. Now, Will Allday definitely has a chip on his shoulder, but like Todd Kinley said, it's not bragging if you back it up. But I'm really impressed with Snipes and all of his outings. So I expect to see not only big things, of course, from Will Allday, but then also big things from Snipes, too. I really like his in-ring and what's his name?
Snipes.
That's exactly right. Jesse James, big old Western roughneck Jesse James over Guy Cool. Wasn't even really, Guy Cool did put up a big fight, but as far as, you know, size and strength advantage, Jesse James had that. But the real story coming out of this is Howdy Price and Levi Shapiro seem to be recruiting. What a perfect combination, Howdy Price and Jesse James.
I couldn't have said it any better. I do find this interesting. I don't know if he's going to take it or not. I don't know if he's going to make that call and do that business. But if he does, it's going to be interesting.
I think so too. I mean, that's kind of the bodyguard that both of those guys, Levi and Howdy, needs. Of course, Dan Joseph was back in action after a real tough, almost 2-on-1 like defeat in that return United TV title match last week. Dan Joseph was chomping at the bit and just couldn't wait to get back in there. It's like falling off a bike, man. You get right back on it. And Dan Joseph could not wait to get back in the ring. And Jordan Cruz looked really good too. You talk about beefing up and putting on a little bit of size, and he looked really good in there, but Dan Joseph picks up the victory in that one.
Oh, man. That was a pretty good match. I mean, Jordan Cruz was hungry, but Dan Joseph even hungrier, and he just might get the television title back.
I think so, too. I think we have some big things coming from Dan Joseph. Speaking of titles, oh, man, when we heard about this one on Tuesday on Primetime Live, the Heritage title on the line, former mentor Ray Rosas and mentee Jordan Clearwater. And we remember back, I know you remember, you've watched every episode. Last year, Ray Rosas was basically teaching Jordan Clearwater everything he knows. Now here they are facing off for the Heritage title. Were you surprised at all at the outcome of this one?
A little bit. I did not think that SoCal distancing would get involved the way that they did. The only more important question that I can think of is, who is that third guy?
So the third guy, Todd Kinley did allude to the fact, and you could hear my reaction. I don't know if that was a new member of the faction or not. but definitely went in there and helped. And his face was covered with the face shield, but I'm pretty sure it's Don Kubrick. And just like you, I was kind of thrown for a loop watching this myself. Like, wait a minute, what was that? What just happened? But we do have a new Heritage champion. And this only comes a couple of weeks after we crowned a new United TV champion. So really, literally, anything can happen on any given episode of Championship Wrestling. But Clearwater defeats Ray Rosas thanks to SoCal distancing. And also, you've got to think it's really good timing for Beef Candy, because Richie Slade and Jordan Clearwater now are set to square off at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood's 500th episode spectacular, which we will have in full on CW30 and here on YouTube Premiere as well.
That's going to be an interesting match. That is for sure.
And it looks like it'll be for the Heritage title now.
Wow.
So give me your hits and misses as far as episode 87, because that's what this thing is all about, man. I could talk good about Championship Wrestling all day long, but what were the hits? What were the misses? Anything that you'd like to see done differently on episode 87?
Ever since Championship Wrestling came back from the COVID hiatus, the show's been hitting faster. It's been hitting harder. There is definitely a different beat, a different attitude to the show since Championship Wrestling has returned. Not really anything that I could really change here.
That's good.
I only wish that SoCal distancing didn't get involved in that Heritage Championship match, but that's a different story.
Yeah, and I was reading on some of the comments and stuff just about how impressive Ray Rosas was during that match and how much of a shame it was that the victory was a little bit tainted, not even a little bit tainted. It was a lot of it tainted as far as Jordan Clearwater. And he didn't even know, so it'll be interesting to see how Clearwater responds and reacts once he the aftermath of this thing. What is going to happen? What is going to happen?
Given how the show has been since since the return from the COVID hiatus, anything possibly could.
You're exactly right. Prince Watercress, man, I really appreciate you joining me here today. Tell everybody where they can go and they can read your reviews. And I know you have a YouTube channel and all that stuff. Tell us where we can find all that.
All right. So if you want to see my live tweets, it's twitter.com/Prince Watercress with 1 S. For my gaming blog, there's princewatercress.blogspot.com, where I basically tell you how to go through old games. There is the wrestling recaps for a whole bunch of stuff. I cover WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, Impact, and of course, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at princewatercresswrestling.blogspot.com. And if you want to see my gaming channel, youtube.com/Prince Watercress LP.